What's going on, guys? So we've got a lot of stuff to go over today. Well, not a whole lot, but multiple different things, because nothing big is going on right now, right? Bryan is supposed to go in today, probably by the time you see this video, so he can do his court date to get extradited back to Idaho. Aside from that, though, we've had a lot of stuff come up. We've had a lot of people talking about the way Bryan acted once everything had happened. So is that real, or is that just people noticing something from nothing? Remember, we don't know what the police know. So we don't know how guilty or not guilty this guy may be. Now, it's safe to assume that the police have good reason to have arrested him. That's common sense, But we don't know what they have or what his side of the story is. All we can go off of are the rumors that spread around until he gets back to Idaho and police can tell us what they have against him. A lot of people, like his classmates and other students where he was a teacher's aide, have said that he changed his behavior once the murders took place. They said that he was more upbeat. They said that he was more talkative. But then when they would talk about this crime, he would shut down. They lived about 10 miles apart. They might be in different states, but I guarantee you that's all one big community. 2 colleges, everything in between that is college town. But just because they're different states, just because they're different towns, doesn't mean that everybody's not in the same social circles. Everybody's not working around each other, going to the same places, doing the same types of things. I probably wouldn't go as far as to say that Bryan was in the same social circles as these victims, but we don't know what the connection is yet. We don't know what connections there might have been. All of us know somebody who isn't like us, but we're still around them because they're close by. They're friends of a friend, something like that. So we don't know what the connections may be yet. We don't know how he knew them yet. A lot of people are assuming that it's internet connections and stuff. We'll find out all these answers, I'm sure. Once we go through the hearing and we get to hear all the evidence that the police have against him, then we can start really making those connections of, oh, well, he knew them from here. This is why they said it was targeted. This is why he might have done it. Things like that. Now, there was one student yesterday who came online and was answering questions. Apparently, Bryan was his teacher's aide and graded papers for him and stuff. And he said that Bryan was a pretty harsh grader. But he said the exact opposite of what everybody else said. Everybody else said that after the murders, Bryan was a lot more upbeat, right? He said Bryan was a lot more quiet, a lot more focused, like he was thinking something, had something on his mind, whatever. And that he stopped being a difficult grader who would leave nasty comments on the paper and started just giving everybody hundreds. Was he in a better mood after the murders? Now, we're going to go into that video and we're going to watch that video. We're going to watch that guy answer some questions. Obviously, not the whole thing. I'm not trying to rip off somebody else's content here. But we want to get an understanding of what that person's talking about. And I'll give some commentary in between wherever it's needed.
It was pretty crazy. I mean, I was, just like sleeping here on the couch in my parents' house. And I woke up to all these tweets that were like, oh, they got the guy. And of course, this has been something that everyone in Pullman has been following, everyone in the whole Pullman, Moscow area.
Like I said, one big area, the Moscow Pullman area. It's all going to be one big town. It's not that different. Just because it's across state lines, it's one big community.
And so, I look on my phone and I see the guy's name and I see the picture and I'm thinking, that looks a lot like my TA who's also named Bryan, but that would be crazy. And so I went and I checked my email, to see the emails I'd had with him and the name matched and everything. And yeah, it was just like totally jarring, totally shocking to realize that this person that had been, kind of grading my papers was, allegedly this like horrible murderer.
Could you imagine that? Just wake up one day and find out that somebody that you knew was the person that the whole country was looking for a quadruple homicide in the next town over?
He was pretty strict as far as grading goes. When he came into class, he was very, not super mentally present. He would stand up at the front, look at the ground. He had a lot of like boilerplate responses he would give people rather than, maybe something he had thought up on the spot. It seemed like he would be he'd come in knowing what he was going to say to like most interactions. And then when he would grade your papers, he would be grading you on what he ended up calling like a higher standard. But what it really felt like to us was he was grading us like he would have graded himself as a PhD student. And so that was just kind of like, we were all annoyed by him. And so I knew his name, I knew like, oh, T.A. Bryan, like he sucks at this. Like he's grading us too harshly. And that was like an annoyance. But obviously beyond that, we just thought he was a little weird and kind of, a bad grader.
So he was known as a little weird and a bad grader. Some people even said that he left nasty notes on their papers.
He actually only left me good comments, which is just kind of silly. Like the only ones I could send in were nice ones, but for most people, he was being pretty harsh in the comments. For whatever reason, he was being pretty good to me. Our professor was big on the idea that like, if we're all going to be attorneys someday, then we have to know how to argue our case. And so he scheduled a day where everyone, came in ready to argue to get their grades up, and he brought in Bryan and he was like, all right, go at him. And he had Bryan stand up and everyone was, like a few people were on his side because they wanted to keep their high grades and not like have questions be cut out or whatever. But for the most part, it was like, half of a 150 person class just asking him all these real critical questions and he would answer. And he tried pretty hard to defend himself, which was the kind of thing that our professor loved. He wanted the like courtroom environment. And so there was just a period of class where we were all sort of arguing about this. It wasn't like yelling or anything, but it was certainly conflict,
So Bryan would come into class and give them courtroom experience. They would argue against Bryan and Bryan would defend himself as if they were in a courtroom. Seems like Bryan might enjoy that type of thing. Seems like that might be a big interest for Bryan. I know a lot of people were coming at me yesterday saying, well, he doesn't have a law degree, but he has a criminal justice degree. He was going for a PhD in criminology. He might not be a lawyer. He's not going to go and represent himself. It's not about that. It's about the story that he can tell to his lawyer. It's about the story that gets told to the jury. He probably has an excuse built in for everything. He probably has an argument built in for everything.
Yeah. We just, it would have been about a month before winter break when like the murders happened. And we didn't obviously build our framework for this around that because we had no reason to connect him to that, at the time. But definitely around then, he started grading everybody just 100s. Not like you pretty much, if you turned something in, you were getting high marks. And he stopped leaving notes. It was just, he seemed preoccupied is what I would have said at the time. And now obviously he seems like he was probably pretty preoccupied, but it was much easier. You turn in whatever you wanted pretty much. And he was just grading them up and sending them back.
That's a lot different than what we heard from his classmates. They said he was a lot more upbeat after the murder. They said he was a lot more talkative, a lot more energetic, seemed happier. Then, once he's arrested, Bryan cooperated with the police officers for about 15 minutes before asking for a lawyer. So he was answering questions, he was talkative for 15 minutes, and then he wanted his lawyer. I wonder what they asked him. I wonder what they said that would make him want his lawyer. If he was confident enough to talk to them without a lawyer, what did they possibly say that then made him turn around and say, nope, scratch this, I want a lawyer? We had some lady saying that he was being wild and crazy and screaming and rap lyrics, violent rap lyrics, all this crazy stuff. I highly doubt that. This guy is pleading his innocence. It does not make sense that he would go then and act a fool in jail. It just doesn't. Maybe he would. I'm not saying he's a sensible person. He did go in and murder 4 people in one night. Allegedly. But I'm not saying he's a sensible person. I'm just saying that wouldn't add up. That wouldn't make sense for a defense, right? Because your behavior is being monitored. They're definitely watching everything you do right now because they want all the evidence they can to pin you to the walls. They're going to interview cellmates. They're going to talk to people. But a more believable source said that he was curled up in a ball, sleeping and staring at the wall. Sounds like detox. Was it heroin again? Was it Adderall? Stimulants? Speed? I don't know. Maybe pain pills. Could be anything, right? Could just be scared, breaking, because he got caught. We don't know why he's acting the way he's acting or how he's acting, actually. Just all rumors and reports, right? But certain rumors make a lot more sense than other rumors. It makes sense that police have his DNA. It makes sense that he would have talked to police, and then when they asked a certain question, he would have asked for a lawyer. It makes sense that he would be curled up in a ball, staring at the wall, being quiet, trying not to cause any trouble, either playing victim or really just terrified of what his future holds because of his actions, allegedly. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more, hit that notification bell so you get notified anytime I post. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.